Hi everyone. Welcome back to GeoCurrent. For most of the post-war era, Northeast Asia relied on a simple foundation. The United States treated the stability of Japan and South Korea as part of securing its own territory. This expectation shaped trade deals, military planning, and regional diplomacy. You could describe it as the quiet anchor of the entire Pacific. But today, that foundation is shifting. Slowly, quietly, but unmistakably. We're seeing a major adjustment in American strategy. The old alliance-first approach is being replaced by a framework that looks far more transactional. The events unfolding at the end of 2025 and the early signals for 2026 confirm that the U.S. is recalibrating what it expects from its allies. For Tokyo and Seoul, this isn't an academic change. It directly affects how secure they feel. Because when Washington shifts its priorities, the ripple reaches them faster and harder than most other partners. To understand why the anxiety is so intense, we need to revisit a moment from Europe. The U.S. signaled interest in a 28-point peace framework for Ukraine. That framework included border adjustments. In Europe, the conversation focused on ending a long-running conflict. But in Asia, leaders read it differently. In Tokyo, analysts saw a signal. Major agreements might now prioritize speed over principle. Negotiations could favor closure rather than defending long-held positions. This led to a difficult question. If Washington can accept border changes in Europe, could it accept political changes in Asia? And another question that Tokyo and Seoul discuss privately. If the U.S. reduces its involvement in one region, how does that affect the Taiwan Strait? These are not dramatic questions. They are practical questions asked by governments that depend on predictability. At the same time, something else is happening. Washington appears to be warming to deeper strategic dialogue with Beijing. This has caught the region's attention. Some analysts describe this as a G2 model, a world where the US and China manage global stability together. Not formally, not by treaty, but through structured, repeated high-level meetings. Look at US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Since taking office in 2025, he has outlined a schedule of 4 major meetings with President Xi throughout 2026. One of them is a state visit to Beijing in April. Officially, these meetings aim to stabilize the global economy. But Japan and South Korea worry about something else, a two-player arrangement that sidelines traditional allies. Japan sees the risk of losing influence in regional planning. South Korea sees an opportunity for reduced tension, but also the danger of being overshadowed if Washington and Beijing reach bilateral economic understandings. In both capitals, the concern is the same. If two large powers settle issues directly, smaller partners receive the news, not the invitation. This fear intensified after a major moment in Tokyo. In November 2025, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi issued a very clear statement. She said that any military move against Taiwan would be an existential threat to Japan. This was unprecedented. Japan rarely speaks this directly on regional issues. Her statement moved Japan away from decades of strategic ambiguity and toward a more assertive posture. Beijing reacted sharply. Tokyo expected that, but the surprising part was Washington's reaction, or the absence of one. According to multiple reports, during a call on November 24th, the U.S. President asked Prime Minister Takaichi not to escalate her comments. Some analysts interpreted this as an attempt to prevent tension. Others interpreted it as evidence that Washington now views commitments through a cost-benefit equation. Japan then attempted to reinforce the relationship through economics. Over $550 billion of Japanese investment was directed toward the U.S. economy. That is one of the largest investment commitments Japan has ever made toward a single partner. Yet the political reassurance Tokyo hoped to receive did not materialize. The message remained restrained. Now, let's turn to South Korea. Seoul faces a different set of pressures. Maritime activity near the peninsula has risen. Regional competition is intensifying. And any shift in U.S. posture would immediately reshape Korean planning. President Lee Jae-myung approaches the alliance pragmatically. He understands the political differences between Seoul and Washington, but he also understands the reality. South Korea depends heavily on U.S. support. To strengthen the partnership, Seoul has committed $350 billion in investment, plus another $150 billion for shipbuilding cooperation. Seoul worries that any weakening of U.S. engagement could expose it to risks. There has been no direct threat of troop withdrawal, but the message is implied in negotiations. In a transactional framework, stationing troops overseas is not a strategic obligation, but a service, and services are priced based on leverage, demand, and alternatives. Japan, meanwhile, is responding by increasing its defense budget to around 2% of its GDP. This is a substantial change from historical patterns, where defense spending remained low relative to national output. Yet even this shift may not fully align with Washington's evolving expectations. Hints of the new American mindset appeared during an interview with Fox News, where the U.S. president stated that many allies are not our friends and argued that some partners take advantage of us more than China. This statement resonated across Tokyo and Seoul. It placed long-term allies in the same economic category as competitors. This does not mean the alliances are collapsing, but it does mean they are being re-evaluated. The future framework appears to be built on measurable contribution, financial investment, and economic return, not shared history or shared values. For Tokyo and Seoul, this means preparing for a more self-reliant posture. They can't rely solely on tradition. They need newer tools, stronger capabilities, and diversified partnerships. So where does this leave the region? In a moment of transition, Japan is expanding its defense structure. South Korea is investing in maritime strength and industrial partnerships. The U.S. is managing a crowded slate of global priorities, from economic stabilization to technological competition. The strategic map of Northeast Asia is changing shape, not through dramatic events, but through gradual shifts in policy, investment, and diplomatic tone. Japan and South Korea now recognize a new reality. The United States remains a crucial partner, but the terms of partnership are evolving, and the cost of continued support may now include a reduction in strategic autonomy. Now it's your turn. If alliances become more transactional, does this push Japan or South Korea to develop more independent strategic capabilities? Or does it pressure them to adjust their positions towards Beijing to protect their long-term interests? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching GeoCurrent.